Hello, Internet. This is Sophia, the Red Angel, making my best effort on this channel to find fresh things to talk about. And for this video, I failed at that. Or have I? That's right, you might think that there is nothing fresh at all about commenting in the year 2021 about a movie that was released back in 2018. Especially if it was released in mid-2018. If that were the case, anything truly interesting there is to say about the movie would have been said already by 1,000 YouTubers by the time the year was out. That is, unless I am discussing something about how a scene in that movie has aged, i.e., how that scene might be perceived differently today than it likely would be at the time of the film's release. Of course, then you might think that just coming on 3 years after a film's release might be a bit too soon to comment. But then again, these haven't been just any 3 years. Anywho, in preparation for watching the new Disney Plus series Loki, I have been catching up on some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that I unfortunately had missed. Among the ones that I had failed to see closer to their release date was Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was released on July the 4th, 2018. And while watching it, I was struck by something I saw, something that would have flown completely under my radar had I seen the movie 3 or even 2 years earlier. In this movie, there is a part where Dr. Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man from a previous generation, is trying to shrink down to a subatomic size, and at one point is forced to pause when he has managed to become microscopic but hasn't yet reached the submolecular, let alone subatomic level. As Hank looks out of the submarine-like vehicle he is in, he sees a world that is way too tiny to be seen by unshrunken human eyes. Back in 2018, when this film was released, the eyes of the viewers would have been fixated on the tardigrades surrounding the vehicle, as tardigrades were all the rage at the time, as they had been since at least the time that Star Trek Discovery had come out the year before. To complete the scene, though, there were several objects of far lesser importance, at least of lesser importance from the point of view of a 2018 audience. Among those scenery-filling objects were some objects that very few people back in 2018 would have recognized, let alone cared about. But I didn't see the movie until mid-2021, and as a result, I couldn't help but notice that some of these filler objects had an eerie resemblance to some of the artist's conceptions of the coronavirus, which between the time that the movie was released and the time that I finally got around to watching it, had brought society to its knees. Of course, I don't know whether the coronavirons in that scene are in proper proportion to the tardigrades in the scene, but since when has scale realism been something that Hollywood prioritizes over spectacle in such scenes? Microbiologists might have made a double take here, assuming that they did in fact get it wrong, which I admittedly don't know if they did. But with most of the audience, they can get away with it. Or maybe these objects aren't coronavirus at all, but something else that just looks a lot like them to a layperson like me. I would think that I could find an answer to all these questions by simply doing a Google search for Ant-Man coronavirus, and in thinking that, I would be wrong. To my complete surprise, when I did that Google search, I found nothing of the sort. Instead, all I found was stuff about different actors from the movie taking different sides on the debate that never should have occurred, the debate on whether or not to take the COVID pandemic seriously. I mean, I get it. When someone as famous as any of the star actors of these movies comments on something as big as the pandemic, it is going to make the news. But seriously, there is no way that I am the first one to notice this nuance in that scene. I mean, true, This might have evaded people's notice in 2018, but you would think that sometime in mid to late 2020, someone would have rewatched the movie while in lockdown and said something about this. I mean, as far back as February 2020, I remember pictures of the coronavirus being everywhere. Surely anyone rewatching Ant-Man and the Wasp would have recognized it. But if they did, and if they said anything about it online, then Google was no help finding what they said about it. And again, as previously stated, it is entirely possible that those objects in the background are not coronavirus, but something else which I mistook for them. But if that is the case, given how much they look like coronavirus, you would think that I would at least find some source dispelling the notion that that is what they are. But I found nothing of that sort either. My inability to find anything on Google affirming or dispelling that observation is, well, baffling. Maybe I am the first to notice how much those objects look like coronavirus, but I find it far more likely that this is just a case of Google having failed me. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like this video, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. And until next time, see ya!